Good. The last part is the transition from a position into another position. Yeah? I just show because it's sufficient for the explanation, the PT sequence, that means position into transition sequence. Okay, so we already started with this, with the reaching. We pretended to get into a specific direction. We start again in this direction. I already told you, when I'm going into this direction, some parts of my body want to group or reposition because it's getting out of safety. Yeah, so if I would go into this direction and would let my body follow me, I will come into a half kneeling position. Okay, so from a position, for example, where my ankle is loaded with just its own weight, I can use this movement to load my ankle with my body weight and have a more effect on the stretching or mobilization of the front part. So also my knee is coming into a position fully flexed, loaded, and this ankle is right the opposite of this one. This one is extended, this one is flexed. So I can use this position for simultaneously working on extension of this and flexion of this while keeping my spine upright. Okay, so this just is an example where a transition leads you. What is the reason for a transition, what you can get out of a transition, and where it leads. Okay, so for example, if I reach forward, I'm getting into a leaning, and the more I reach, I'm getting into unloading my butt, and this is getting into a hip hinge movement. Okay, so just the position and transition would look like this. I can, but and for this explanation thing, I don't go into the next position. This would be the next position. This position is always when you feel you have a little rest or you have a good alignment, so you can stay for here or start anew out of this one. Okay, so reaching forward will lead me into a hip hinge movement. Hip hinge movement means this mobility of the hip, and the mobility is getting into a stability prone asymmetric hip hinge pattern. Okay, so another new possibility. If I go into this direction, for example, I will collapse quite easily. But what I can do is I could use the forward movement into this movement, because it will again bring me into a new position with more possibilities. So reaching into this direction could lead me into a hip hinge and then getting more farther reaching possibilities into this direction. Okay, so last one for the back. So if you reach like this, you will find, okay, this foot is in a good position to keep my balance, but he's also getting conditional influence on extension. Now, if my foot is like this, which is stopping the possibility into this direction as we started at the beginning, this one lets me move into half kneeling, this one is blocking me. This one is also giving me less stability to the back. So the question is, why sitting like this or like this? It's the sole possibility to have different influences on the knee or the hip. If like here, I have more work on the hip. If I work like here, I have more work or more effect or more training possibilities into the knee. Okay? It's just a little difference. Little children use this position more than grown-ups, those who sit still on the floor. But if you are working with this, you will immediately feel what a big difference this is and what you can get out of this. Okay? So we had the example of reaching backward. What happens when I reach backward? I would collapse, yeah? But I'm not collapsing and hurting myself. This could have some training effects I'm desperately needing. For example, spine mobility and spine stability for a rocket movement. Or very efficient movement getting into an elbow. Or later for break falls or for hard impacts preparation, you could do a backward fall from here and feel for higher impacts and the for higher impacts and the conditioning that is happening on something like this.